Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 7 of the No Sugarcoating Podcast. How are you? I hope you're having the most amazing day wherever you are in the world. Little ankle foot update. Feeling so much better a week later. I'm not even limping anymore on my foot, and I'm so grateful that I have my orthotics. If you're not aware, it's not a big deal because I'm just healing and taking care of myself, but I had a little twisty poo oops last week and sprained my foot ankle kind of deal, but it's healing so fast. And it just goes to show you the proof of like taking care of your body, like processing through emotions, knowing what to eat, the things to put on my foot to like help with inflammation and like surrender and resting, like how fast the body will shift when we're working with our body versus when we're resisting and fighting. And let me tell you, today's conversation that we're going to have can be a big block in the way of us healing physically, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually when we're caught up in this habit, this behavior. And trust me, I went through it myself. In fact, it was through healing this, that created everything that I'm here talking to you about today. So this week, I really want to talk about I want to talk about key signs of sugar addiction. And I actually want to break down emotional eating and sugar addiction because they may seem like the same thing, but there's components of each. And some people are actually struggling with both, and some are actually struggling with one more than the other. So I want to help give you clarity. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about joining Kick the Sugar, the 5-week course that starts October 2nd live, where we're going to help you reduce your sugar cravings, balance your blood sugar, and help you feel more empowered with your relationship with food. So, of course, the show notes first can be found in amberapproved.ca/podcast/437. A friendly reminder, if you are listening to all of this and going, oh my gosh, I think I'm struggling with sugar addiction, or now I know for sure I'm struggling with sugar addiction, I'm emotionally eating, my sugar addiction is triggering me to binge, I don't want to do that anymore, I want to heal my relationship with food, I want to feel empowered living in my body. I don't want to diet anymore. I don't want to chase the scale anymore. I want to learn how to love myself, and I want to be free of the inflammation, the pain. I want my body to heal more quickly. I want my digestion and hormones to balance more easily, right? And I want to really learn how to manage my ego, this ego mind that you keep talking about, Amber. I want to learn how to manage it and spend more time in my power, et cetera, et cetera. If this is you and you're resonating with what I'm talking about in these podcasts, you are so welcome to come forth and book a 30-minute body freedom consultation to talk about one-on-one support. And if you want a taste of support, come and join Kick the Sugar, if you're struggling with these things I'm talking about today. And for those of you that do come forth for 6 and 12-month coaching programs one-on-one, you actually get Kick the Sugar complimentary access, as I give complimentary access to all of my mini courses, master classes, and membership to my 6 and 12-month clients. So just know that you would actually get that if you're interested in, like, I'm not sure what to do, but I'm happy to answer any questions if anything comes up for you around that. So without further ado, let's dive in. So key signs of sugar addiction. Let's talk a little bit about this. So just a bit of personal experience, because I know you guys really resonate with when I talk about this, but I went through it myself, and it can go very unconscious. Like, we're very unaware of it actually when we're going through it. So I think I probably had a sugar addiction for most of my growing up and just didn't realize it. So when sugar is literally in everything, all these processed big companies put sugar in everything. A lot of the restaurants are putting sugar in their vegetables even. I think I talked about that. But they're literally putting in everything because they've numbed society's taste buds so much that they have to keep adding more so that we can keep getting the right dopamine high and the right pleasure response and stay just like perfectly addicted to these foods and relying on them. So I definitely was to the point where I was just constantly craving sugar and had very intense cravings. I was thinking about food and sugar all the time. I often would get kind of moody and irritable if I couldn't get my sugar fix. And or if I went through a period of time where I was trying to reduce my intake of sugar, I would go through drug-like withdrawal, because sugar is like a drug, refined sugar, and we go through drug-like withdrawals. And I'll talk more about all that today. And, it felt like sugar was a friend. Like when I was emotionally eating and binging, it's just like, who would I be if I wasn't doing this? I can't imagine not using these as coping mechanisms. And there was some resistance around thinking about like not using sugar and food as a crutch, because the majority of the things that I binged on anyway had sugar, whether it was chocolate or candy or ice cream or baked goods of some kind, cereals with sugar. I did still binge on like cheese and breads and sandwiches and pastas. But the irony is a lot of those things were very carb rich and broke down into simple sugars anyway. But there's a lot of different, I guess, layers to sugar addiction. And so I want to talk about some of the key signs, because I didn't realize I was addicted to it until I started to learn about sugar. And then it was 10 times more addictive than cocaine. And that it excites the same part of the brain as the hard drug. And it gives us a massive dopamine high. And dopamine is that like mood boosting neurotransmitter hormone that really gives us pleasure, gives us a euphoric moment, but it's a very fast moment. And then we have the crash and we don't feel good and it impacts our mood and all of these things that you always hear me talking about. So it blew my mind when I started to learn about sugar and that it was having this impact on my brain. It was impacting my blood sugar. It was impacting and fueling inflammation and making me more puffy and bloated and swollen. It was suppressing my immune system like crazy because I was getting sick all the time. And now I like never get sick. I had a little cold like last October, but that's because hubby went to see his family and people were sick on the plane. So like sometimes you can't avoid it, but literally other than that, like haven't been sick in like 8 years, right? Knock on wood. But a lot of that has to do with less sugar consumption. Some people I saw a meme the other day or like a post. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they had a good point in the post. They're like, oh, like cold and flu season should be like directly correlated with sugar season because all the Halloween candy comes out in the store by the end of August. And then you have back to school, but sugar significantly suppresses the immune system. If we have an increase in sugar intake, refined sugar intake going into September, October through the holidays through, to Valentine's Day, right? Because chocolate, refined sugar, all the stuff, that is suppressing our immune system. It's not to say you can't eat any sugar, but for a lot of people that are addicted to it, or it's really impacting their health in many different ways. And I'm going to talk more about this in Kick the Sugar. We're going to talk a lot about sugar and frequency, because the more you process any food, right, it comes from the sugar cane, but once you process it to the level that these big companies do, there's literally nothing of nutrient value left. And then it's put into all these products with fake dyes and seed oils and aspartames and MSGs and all these other ingredients made in a lab. And you're literally eating something that is so beyond processed that the body has such a stress response trying to break it down, and it actually lowers our frequency. So different foods vibrate at different frequencies. The more processed something is, the lower the frequency, and then we're consuming it and it drops our frequency, and that really can impact our mood, our behaviors, our thoughts. It can inhibit the body balancing and healing, so many different things. So it's important to understand that refined sugar, and any food for that matter that's very processed, does not just impact us on a physical level and fuel inflammation, lower immunity, impact our hormones, fuel PMS, symptoms like cramps, because it fuels inflammation. Sugar fuels inflammation. And a lot of people think that it's salt intake that increases increases blood pressure. It's actually all the refined sugar. It fuels inflammation. It makes the blood more sticky, and then the heart has to pump harder to pump the blood through the body. So excess refined sugar intake, or eating it regularly and not knowing it's hidden in a lot of the foods you're eating, that is a huge part of actually high blood pressure and all these autoimmune things, because refined sugar really suppresses our system in so many different ways and feeds unhealthy bacteria that make the perfect environment for all kinds of illnesses, dis-ease, inflammation and fatigue and brain fog and all these symptoms that we don't want. Bloating. If you're really gassy but you're eating a lot of sugar, it's because it feeds unhealthy bacteria, and the byproduct of that unhealthy bacteria or fungus or yeast is carbon dioxide, and then you get gas. And that is not genetic. That is not, oh, it runs in the family. No, it's like probably all your lineage has bad candida, and that's why you're gassy. We're not supposed to be gassed. We're not supposed to have these symptoms. These need to stop being normalized. These systems, the media, stop normalizing these symptoms. People, stop. This is not normal. These are all signs that the body is trying to talk to us and tell us that something is out of whack. But healing sugar addiction and healing emotional eating was very empowering, because I no longer feel attached to any food. I don't feel attached to sugar. I don't crave sugar anymore. And I'm just sharing that because I want you to know that like you can do it too. But it took some learning and some understanding. But the beauty of it is because I've learned so much about it and have, helped so many women overcome sugar addiction and cravings and balanced blood sugar and so many other things. It's a lot easier for them to gain traction now. And the success is so high, and it takes way less time than it took for me, because I can just pass on all the good stuff that I've learned. So just, it makes it a lot easier. So, I want to talk about some signs of sugar addiction. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about kind of like some of the things that can fuel it other than the obvious, some of the kinds of sugar that are the most obvious to check in your labels for, what kind of products you're going to find them in, and how sugar addiction can really fuel binge eating and emotional eating. But what are some of the biggest kind of like things that are different between the two of them, but that you can end up with both of them. So without further ado, let's talk about this. And I had like all of these, and it's just a good check-in. No judgment. If you are dealing with this, no judgment, no shame. This is just about spreading awareness so that you can decide if you want to do something about it or take some steps, or now maybe this will help you become aware and maybe you were not before. Okay. So the first sign of sugar addiction is that you eat sugar, or you want to eat sugar even if you're not hungry. So you're physically full, you just ate, you actually know you don't need anything, but you want to eat sugar and you're craving it and you're like, I can't move on until I finish eating this. Right. And oh my gosh, I'd like eat a meal and then I'd be like, okay, time to go and like find my sugar and get my sugar fix. Or I would, if I was already triggered and having a bad day and I had already started eating sugar, like at work, or someone brought something in and I could never not give into it. If there was sugar in the room, I was always giving in. And that's actually another sign of sugar addiction, is you can't be mindful around it. And part of that is honestly by design. That's not your fault. It's literally 10 times more addictive than cocaine for most people. It's a very small amount of the population that can actually have mindful amounts of it and not lose control or not overdo it. And this is all by design. This is not you. This is these systems that be, or that have been, that are hopefully, diminishing as people vote more with their dollars and support more local companies, producing better quality products, farmers markets, right? Like all this kind of stuff. And let me tell you, after I complete launching and get into this Kick the Sugar program, I am going to be working on something really big. And this was a decision and an idea that I got a couple of months ago, and it's going to be huge. And it's going to be a like eyes wide open, jaw dropping, like awakening, like thing. Like it's going to be huge, and I'll share more about it once I get into it and actually get creating it. But I'm already intending that it's going to go viral and help hundreds of millions of people wake up to, this topic that I'm going to be talking about. And the cool thing is I already have a really big, like company that is very much rooted in, what's in the greatest support for humanity, that already wants to like share what I'm going to do. So if you want to hear about it, stay tuned to the podcast and social media, because you guys will be finding out about it first. And I might even ask for your help in some way, whether it's sharing it or whatever. We'll talk about it though, but I am so friggin' pumped about this, and you're going to love it as well, I think. But yeah, like I would just not be able to resist it. I would see it and then I would crave it, and then my mouth would water and like, I need that. I need the sugar. So that's another sign that you're addicted to, is it's in the same room or it's in your house and you can't deny it. Like it's there and you keep going and grabbing more out of the cupboard. And even if it's just bits at a time, I'm just going to have one bite of ice cream. I'm just going to have one cookie, but then an hour later you go grab them back and grab another bite, or you go and grab another bowl, or you go and grab another cookie. And then by the end of the day, it's accumulated to 3 bowls of ice cream or like 10 cookies or whatever it is, right? It's just so easy with sugar. Another sign of sugar addiction is you really go into binging with it. You overdo it, you overeat it, right? So whether it's eating the whole bag of Skittles, like not a regular size one, which by the way, like no ingredient in there that's actually from nature. They should be illegal. They're garbage. I used to love them when I was a kid. But that's just my opinion. I know some people are like, well, I'm going to eat it if I want to. I'm like, fine. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. But I'm just trying to spread the education, because these companies shouldn't be allowed to produce these garbage products, honestly. I still have faith things are going to change for the better here. But if you are finding, say, like you go and you grab a few pieces of candy and then you want to eat the whole jar of them. You have the few bites of ice cream and now you're wanting to eat the whole pint, or you eat, you have the 2 liter and you eat as much of it as you can until you feel sick. You eat one donut and then you want to eat the rest of them, right? Or you just are eating a wide variety of different sweets. Like this loss of control and this consuming excess amounts is binge eating. So that's another sign, is you're binging on the sweets. If you're feeling intensive cravings for sugar, okay, and then every time you get a craving, and so maybe that's every day, right? But for however often your sugar cravings get really intense, it's like you get in your head and the ego's on one side and you're on the other, and your ego's like, oh, just give in. It'd be so much easier if you just gave in and had the sugar. You had a bad day, you had a good day, you deserve a reward. Just go and have that. Who cares? Like, you deserve it. You're tired. You deserve it. This is going on in the world. Blah, 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 blah. Like, just go eat the sugar, right? And then you're like, oh, but I know I'm going to have brain fog. I know I'm going to be tired. And then my cravings are going to get worse. And what if I start eating it and I can't stop? And then your ego's like, who cares? Just eat it anyway. You deserve it. The craving's too intense. It's harder to not give in than to just give in. Giving in is just easier. And the ego dialogue just continues on and on and on and on. And then you give in to the craving, right? Because you don't necessarily know how to navigate the ego. You don't know how to balance your blood sugar and reduce your cravings. And maybe you don't know healthier alternatives. Because this isn't, for some people, this is about cutting sugar because they're so addicted to it and it helps them overcome their sugar addiction. For others, they don't have to cut sugar. Maybe they swap some natural sugars for more refined and it helps them, have more balance and heal their relationship with food. However, I find for most people, it does get to the point where, regardless of how you navigate your journey, and I always ask people what feels best for them. And I've had clients come to me like, I think I need to cut sugar. I'm so addicted to it. I'm not gaining traction if I keep eating, having it in the house or whatever. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about swapping it for natural things. And as they do that, they actually gain momentum more easily because they're losing control. And that's what I did. But like I said, I have other clients who we don't have to really like necessarily minimize the intake because you're not having a lot of it, but maybe they understand that there's this massive emotional eating component that is really fueling them. And once they understand how to navigate their triggers and learn healthy ways to cope, then they don't feel that sugar is that big of an issue anymore. Not to mention, the more you balance your blood sugar, the more you have better digestion, regulate your hormones, get better sleep, etc. This all helps to reduce our cravings, as well as exploring the emotional connection to our cravings, which we're going to do in Kick the Sugar. That's actually one of the bonuses as soon as you sign up, is there's sugar prompts, journal prompts in there that are going to help you start to understand that there's emotional and physical and energetic connections to our sugar cravings. And the more we can actually explore the holistic roots and address them, the more the cravings will fall away. As we're not meant to crave refined sugar or refined salt or fast food or anything really processed. If we are, it's a sign there's internal imbalance going on physically, energetically, and emotionally. And as we build awareness, because cravings are teachers, just like everything is that I talk about, you will learn the lessons and understandings of what your body is trying to tell you. And then you can take the steps to address those things. And over time, with trial and error and ups and downs on your journey, you will get where you want to go. But it's like the best feeling in the world when I go into a client session and I always say, how are your cravings? And then they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have any. What? I don't have any? It's like the first time ever, the first time in years. And like, it's just such a celebratory moment because it happens for all of them that have sugar cravings or whatever they're craving. Like, wow, I'm not craving anything. How freeing is this? And you get to have that too. So like I talked about earlier, say you are trying to reduce your refined sugar intake, or you go through a period of time where you have less, and then you go through withdrawal symptoms. You feel anxiety, you feel almost in a depressed like state, your mood's in the gutter, you feel jittery, you feel like hangry, that you're not having sugar. This is a sign of sugar addiction. If you overeat sugar, right, and then you feel anxious or stressed or just in this uneasy state when you can't have it, that is a sign of sugar addiction. And to me, here's the big question, people, right? If this is the way the body reacts, weaning off of this, should it really be in all the food? Should it really be something that we're consuming regularly? Why aren't the systems that be more proactive in saying, we're going to make sure that like when we approve foods, that there is little to no refined sugar and there's more natural alternatives. Why are they not doing that? Why are they just pushing everything through that's full of garbage? Like the new Dunkin' Donuts, like pumpkin spice frappe has over 180 grams of sugar. That's 47 teaspoons. That's the equivalent of eating 14 donuts. Why is that even allowed? And then people say, well, it's your own choice if you want to have it and put it in your body or not. Yeah, I hear you. But when you have a sugar addiction and you're binge eating and emotional eating, it is very hard to stop the temptation and you will like go for your fix. This is so big. Emotional eating, binge eating, sugar addiction, it's far beyond you. It's not your fault and you're not crazy. There's so much that is outside of you that is contributed to these behaviors and this reliance, this emotional connection we create with these processed foods. But 180 grams, that's just ridiculous. That is not needed. And there's not even any real pumpkin in this frappe. And there's also sucralose in it, but 12 kinds of sugar, including corn syrup. This is pure garbage. This is pure poison. There's honestly no other way to put it. Why is this company allowed to produce this drink and sell it? Why is there no disclaimer? Why is the FDA approving this stuff? People need to be asking these questions. And I know some of you already know the answers to those questions, but for those of you that are maybe like, I don't know, like start asking, digging, follow the money. Because sugar really makes people sick and unwell. And guess what? Then that makes the big, pharma a lot of money and beyond. When you are in sugar addiction, when you don't feel good, when you're tired and bloated and fighting with your body, you don't feel confident. You feel more insecure. And then it's easier to feed off your vulnerability and desperation. And the big diet companies come in and go, hey, like, we've got the shiny, magical quick fix. Come buy this quick fix diet, but we're not going to tell you it's not going to work and you're going to fail. And then you're going to just get hard on yourself. Right? It's deep, really deep. So my big thing that I was talking about earlier, I'm going to talk about all of this and it's going to it's going to be huge. Because it's about education and it's about opening up your mind and opening up your thought process to what is actually going on and that it's our responsibility to like make the change. Knowledge is power. And for a few of you may be like, wow, that's a big stretch, but whatever. People just need to know the truth at this point. This is the most important thing. Another sign of sugar addiction. So I've had quite a few clients come forth to me that were previously had alcohol issues, and they were able to get sober, but essentially now they're just binge eating on a bunch of sugar or eating a lot of sugar instead. And what a lot of people don't realize is that refined sugar and alcohol only have one molecule difference. So that using alcohol as a coping mechanism can just morph into using sugar. Now, of course, sugar is a slower, like, I don't want to say killer, but it takes more to accumulate and impact the body versus alcohol really can impair us really quickly. But it is like the slow killer, like it over years and decades, it can really negatively impact our health if we're consuming it in excess on a regular basis. But I do see women who have definitely gone through, the alcohol issues and now they're just like binging on sugar. And so we want to go deeper and we want to, really address the roots of what's fueling you to continue to use a crutch like food to suppress, numb, distract, or avoid feeling with and dealing with your emotions, etc. And it's not just that. There's different hormone and gut imbalances that will cause us to binge and overconsume sugar. There's brain chemistry imbalances, low dopamine, low serotonin. Again, we're not taught these things, and there's so many intricate layers to this. And that's why I'm always talking about getting support, whether it's from me or someone else, because this is far beyond what we've ever learned or what we're educated on in school or, by people around us. It's so deep. And I didn't realize any of this until I started to heal. And it's definitely something that there's just so much to learn. And though, as you do, you really gain the confidence and understanding that it wasn't your fault. But that it is for you to own and take responsibility, and that it is your responsibility to take the steps to address it. And ideally do with someone or do with a group of people. It's very powerful that way. Another sign of sugar addiction is, going through the cycle of binge eating. Okay. And then you overdo it. You have the dopamine high. Okay. But then you also maybe end up purging. Okay. So when we go through the cycle of binging and purging, okay, the brain reacts to sugar and we think that, if I get rid of it, then I won't have to deal with the consequences. And we actually produce the dopamine high through the binge, consuming the sugar, and then the purge. But like I always talk about, and I always come from love because I went through this cycle as well. But what I realized was if I purge as well, like I'm fully not taking responsibility and ownership for what's just happening and what's just happened rather, and that I am being really destructive with my body. So if you're going through that cycle and you're losing control with sugar, that is another sign. If you feel like you have to, I guess, go out of your way to get it, like I did, I was driving to the store like almost every night, right, to get my fix. If you feel like you have to walk or drive or go across town or go to another town or get out of bed, right, to go and grab your fix, this is another sign. Maybe this is a big one. And this is one that like I was aware of, but when you're deep in sugar addiction, food addiction, binge eating, it's like you don't want to hurt yourself. You don't want to cause your body harm, but your desire for the dopamine high and chasing the quick fix and numbing is bigger than the desire to actually like work through and break it all apart and overcome it and gain freedom from it. And that's where most people start, and that's okay. But that of like costs or consequences or like ways that binging sugar or consuming too much refined sugar, using it as a coping mechanism, are actually costing you with your health, your relationships, your job, your career, your family life, your quality of life. These costs, the negative impacts. However, you're like, but food is my crutch and sugar is my safety blanket, and I don't want to go away from it. So just a few examples, right? It's costing you inflammation. It's costing you high blood pressure. It's costing you more weight gain. And then you're spending a lot of money on diets that aren't working, and you lose and gain the weight over and over again. It's costing you your confidence that you can never change. It's costing you hormone imbalances, painful periods, infertility, low confidence, low mood, anxiety, the costs go on financially, physically, emotionally. Your mood's lower. You're more anxiety, irritable, angry, frustrated. It lowers your frequency. So maybe it's blocking your ability to manifest what you want, and you're manifesting more stuff that you don't want, right? And that you're like, wow, yeah. But in the moment, you're like, I don't care. I just want the sugar. Another sign is that you take sugar foods with you everywhere, on a walk, driving somewhere, or maybe you can't resist stopping in at the drive-thru on your way home every night after work because you're so tempted by the thing that they sell that you want. Another sign of sugar addiction is lying about how much, quantity of food you ate, or that you're eating higher quantities of the food. So maybe you go to the closet and eat it. Maybe you take a bunch and go hide in the bathroom. Maybe you go outside. I vividly remember many experiences. One where I was camping and I stole the big bag of Oreos and went into the tent and binge ate them all. And everyone's like, where'd all the Oreos go? And I'm thinking, oh my God, I just ate like 30 Oreos. Or my first memorable binge when I went to a party and I took the whole bar of chocolate that was for s'mores and went to the bathroom and like binge ate it all, like, and didn't want anyone to see. I had many times like that, right? One time I worked at a health clinic and someone brought cookies and I like took the whole bag and I ate them all and like hid the empty bag in the garbage. Sugar addiction is real, and I honestly can't feel any shame about it because I didn't know at the time, and I just have love and compassion for that part of me that was struggling, and I want you to have love and compassion for you. It's not something you plan to wake up and do, like, I'm going to go to work today and I'm going to steal all of the sugar baked goods in the kitchen. And like, no, it's so much deeper than that. And another sign is you have trouble waking up in the morning after a big sugar consumption because you're in a big sugar crash, right? It's definitely a very deep connection that we create with it. Another sign is you use sugar to soothe, to numb, to distract, right? It's your comfort zone. You've had a bad day, you're sad, it's your reward. And you use it to cope, right? So, and then afterward, of course, usually this is the case. You feel guilt after over consuming it. You feel angry. You're in resentment of yourself. You're upset with yourself. You're beating yourself up. You're being really hard on yourself. Not fun, right? But it's important to have awareness. And so sometimes when we are going through this entire experience, we can have some intense withdrawal symptoms if we're trying to maybe minimize our intake, especially if we're not aware of like our hormone health, our gut flora, our blood sugar, etc. So we can have intense cravings. We can feel irritable. We can feel depressed, which I really dislike that word because it feels so heavy. I always like to say lower mood. Maybe you crave other carbs, chips, pastas, breads. But it takes a couple of weeks sometimes to have this majority of this leave the body. And like the body has to go through a big process of releasing all this stuff. You may have anxiety, change in your sleep patterns, difficulty concentrating, dizziness and lightheadedness, fatigue, maybe even a bit of nausea. I remember going through the nausea and the irritability. Ugh. You may not go through withdrawal symptoms. It depends on how intensive your sugar addiction and, how often it is you're having it. But if you're binge eating, it can definitely have an impact. And it can take time for your dopamine and serotonin to regulate. But what you start to realize, and I was talking to a client about this earlier today, is like you have the power to create consistent amounts of serotonin and dopamine, those mood boosting, happy, feel good neurotransmitters through meditation, through breath, through journaling, through getting outside, through laughing, through having fun. So many different ways via self-care and play and, having fun in your life that does the same thing, but without all the not so great after effects. Okay. So yeah, there's this connection that we build with it. And then it's just easy. It just feels a lot easier to eat than it does to go and do a self-care practice until we start to flip the switch and go, it doesn't feel right to keep using food as a crutch. I actually want to deal with what's going on. So sugar, yeah, we're going to go deep into sugar and we're going to talk so much about the effects of it on the brain, the frequency, the brain chemistry, the body, your blood sugar, in the 5-week Kick the Sugar program, which I will talk a bit more about soon. But I think it's so important that we understand the depth of this and that it's not you, it's literally in everything, right? So some kinds of refined sugar, corn syrup, brown sugar, corn syrup, honestly, cane sugar is really no better. It's added in so many different things, including your coffees, your fruit drinks, your alcohol, energy drinks, teas, snacks, cookies, baked goods, right? Salad dressings, breads, cereals. It's in a lot of different things. And I often find that, again, when someone is binge eating or in a food addiction, they're consuming a lot of stuff. It's not just one or two things. And maybe you're the person that just has a little bit. But if you're using it as a coping mechanism, we just want to be aware of that so that we can actually take steps to address it. So let's talk a little bit about sugar addiction versus emotional eating and binge eating. So emotional eating is any reason for eating other than physical nourishment. However, maybe you don't emotionally eat on sugar at all. That's not your thing. Maybe it's savory foods, and maybe you just have a small amount. So obviously, if you're not binging on sugar, you're not eating large amounts of anything and it's smaller amounts, you're not dealing with sugar addiction. But I find when, with sugar addiction, maybe it's like you're always craving it and then you're giving into it. For some people, yes, there is an emotional component. To me, there's the unworthiness and the not feeling good enough. And there's a void we're trying to fill with food. But for some people, it can be very significant blood sugar imbalances, insulin resistance, very high levels of candida or yeast overgrowth that craves a lot of sugar and makes you crave a lot of sugar, very high cortisol levels that can really amp up these sugar cravings and this sugar addiction. And maybe you're actually not much of an emotional eater, but because the cravings are so big because of your physical imbalances that are stressing out your body, that really fuels your sugar addiction, albeit usually the reason we're overbooked and overscheduled and overworking is people pleasing, perfection, and all or nothing mentalities. But to me, there can be a lot of really intensive physical imbalances going on in the body that can make us crave sugar and make it really hard to not give in. Versus with emotional eating, you may have sugar cravings, but maybe they're not that intense and maybe you're not having a lot of it. So sugar addiction, I find when we're really chasing sugar, we have low dopamine levels, low serotonin levels, these mood boosting neurotransmitters, and we are craving sugar. And this is all that play into sugar addiction. With emotional eating, we can still have lower dopamine and serotonin. However, we may not have to eat as large of amounts to get that little dopamine high. And or like I said earlier, maybe you're going for more salty foods or fast foods. With emotional eating, usually there is some kind of an emotional trigger or some kind of something emotional that is fueling the self-sabotage, whether it's boredom, sadness, reward, you just got on the scale, don't like the number that you see. I often find there's some kind of an emotional connection to why you're going to food. There's also physical symptoms that will fuel emotional eating. However, I do find with the sugar addiction, it may just be like a craving kicks in. It's like you're having a good day, or you're working on your computer and all of a sudden it's like, boom, intensive 2 p.m. sugar craving just kicked in. And it's like, now you can't stop thinking about it. And now you want it so bad. And that could be more of like, there's no real stressor right now, but I'm having my high cortisol afternoon energy lull. My blood sugars had a big spike. Maybe you skipped a meal by accident and now you're like deep in it. So there is some things that can like really differentiate if those cravings are coming out of nowhere and then you're giving into them. Sometimes you can think it's sugar addiction or emotional eating or one or the other and go, I'm not sure, but sometimes it's both. So if you're craving sugar, if you're losing control with sugar, if you are using sugar as a coping mechanism and you are bored, happy, sad, got on the scale, didn't like the number you saw, you're tired, you can't resist the sugar in the house, you are constantly associating sugar with pleasure and joy, and you get sad thinking about not using it, then there is probably an emotional eating and sugar addiction component both going on. Combined, emotional eating, binge eating, and sugar addiction fuel this behavior, this loss of control. And the more we eat sugar, the more we want it, the more it amplifies our cravings. And of course, that keeps this cycle going. And then if we try diets that are restrictive, that don't have a lot of protein and fat, that make us feel really deprived, that can just keep this cycle going because now we're going into the rebellion mode. And I've talked about that in other episodes, so feel free to check them out. I think that the biggest things that really fuel this are unworthiness, the void, the lack of self-love, gut flora issues, blood sugar issues, cortisol issues from a physical standpoint, not eating enough protein and fat, and then the emotional void, where is sweetness missing in life, where is joy missing in life, that I'm now using sugar to cope. And then we all can have a wide array of different emotional eating triggers. And if you're really wanting to dive deep into what your potential emotional eating triggers and binge eating triggers could be, I do have a 3-part masterclass called Triggers, where we go deep into all, like there's dozens and dozens of them. And that 3-part masterclass is available at amberapproved.ca. Click online programs. It's very insightful and helpful and will help you open your eyes to how deep this is and help you start building awareness. So emotional eating can have a lot of physical and emotional components. I find the sugar addiction is very much about thinking about sugar, chasing sugar, craving sugar, loss of control. But those cravings can really kick in because you're consuming so much of it. There's so much of it in your body that it's fueling the cravings and fueling your desire to really chase the dopamine high. And of course, when we are in emotional eating, we want relief and we'll get that from sugar, but there's often deeper emotional triggers and things to also explore as well. So it's good to always look and see if like one or the other is going on. Obviously, like I said earlier, you're not craving sugar and you're not excessively consuming, there's likely not a sugar addiction going on and there's more of an emotional or binge eating component going on. So it's like, well, what do we do? How do we start to address this? Well, I'll give you a few little tips to support your blood sugar, and then we'll talk a little bit about Kick the Sugar, which is coming up. And we start October 2nd, and I'm so excited for this. This is something that I've been wanting to teach for a long time because I feel for people who have sugar addiction and food addiction and are deep in this. It's not something we want to be stuck in, but it can feel really hard to get out of. So number one, make sure you hydrate and drink enough water through the day, 2 liters, 68 ounces plus. That's the first thing. Number two, ideally making sure you're getting ample protein and fat with your meals, because if you're not eating enough protein and fat, or you're skipping meals and not eating enough, this messes with your blood sugar and this will increase your sugar cravings. Okay. Number three, pull out a journal and explore, if I'm craving sugar, like what is triggering these cravings? Where am I emotionally lacking joy or love in life? Where is sweetness missing in life? Do I feel like the more I eat sugar, the more I crave it? And start exploring this whole new component of the emotional connection. Number four, are you a sensitive empath who's really sensitive to energy and taking on other people's stuff, but you don't have any boundaries? I find that if we're really sensitive to energy and we lack boundaries, we will resent ourselves, and then we will crave more sugar and we will crave more sweetness, because we're not honoring ourselves and honoring the energetic integrity to help us be in alignment, which is setting boundaries, speaking our truth, saying no when it's a no. And we don't do that because we fear what other people will think, but that just throws us out of alignment. And the fifth thing is, I think it's so important to get your hormones tested and get your digestive system addressed to see, what imbalances could be going on that be fueling sugar cravings, fueling blood sugar imbalances. And then of course, if you're, or you think you're struggling with emotional eating, binge eating, food addiction, to address those things, get support, because it's very deep and very intertwined, and it is something that is going to keep fueling your sugar cravings if you don't address it. And if you are wondering if you're struggling with emotional eating, you can go to amberapproved.ca and take the free emotional eating quiz, and it will help give you a score and provide you with some great free tools and resources to get on your way. So if you're going, ooh, I'm intrigued by this kick to sugar, I'm intrigued, I want to learn more, this is me, I'm going through all of this, I'm checking off all or most of the boxes. Well, I just want to give you a few more details, and feel free. You can go to amberapproved.ca/podcast/437, and the Kick the Sugar banner is there, and you can go through everything and all the details and read yourself, of course. But essentially, it is a 5-week live course. We start October 2nd. There's 5 90-minute live sessions via Zoom. Anyone can join us anywhere in the world. In these sessions, we're going to be going into different topics. So we're really going to be diving into what's causing your cravings and how to curb them. So everything from irregular blood sugar. We're going to talk about ways to balance it. I'm going to be giving you all my recommendations to help you balance your blood sugar and reduce your cravings. We're going to be talking about the emotional, hormone, and gut issues that are fueling them as well. We'll integrate foods, teas, spices, and vitamins to help you start reducing your cravings, and you'll get free access to my entire recipe archive that is full of refined sugar-free recipes to just help you along on your way so you don't feel deprived. We're going to talk about the emotional connections to sugar cravings and how to release food guilt. And if you're using food for comfort, how to shift out of that. We're going to talk about ways to bounce back after too much sugar, and how to, support better blood sugar as you get more into this course. Sometimes we can start to figure out, okay, what's impacting my blood sugar? Is it my sleep? Is it my stress levels? Did I skip a meal by accident? Is it something emotional? What's going on? And then we're going to dive into mindful eating, a little bit of food prep, understanding ingredient labels and better sugar alternatives. Because if you don't know how to read your ingredient labels, you're probably innocently consuming a lot of refined sugar and don't even realize it. And we're going to also talk about frequency and sugar, how sugar impacts your frequency. And it's going to be really important for us to dive into that, because it will help give you more insight into your mood, how this can block the body's ability to heal, and so much more. Now, in these 90-minute sessions, 60 minutes is going to be like the education portion, but I always like to interact with everyone in the Zoom chat. And then we're going to have 15-minute Q&As at the end of each of the 5 sessions, so you can get live coaching from me right there. If you can't make sessions live, you can watch replays. You'll get lifetime access to the program. And we're going to have 5 weeks of Voxer. So usually only my one-on-one clients get Voxer access. So we're going to have a group, and everyone that's in the program is going to get to come and join Voxer, and you get access to me for 5 weeks in your back pocket. So if you have questions, you need support, I come in Monday through Friday, every day, a couple times, to give you whatever you need to assist you to this overcoming the sugar cravings, balancing blood sugar, and building a more empowered relationship with your body and food. So that is what you get. There's going to be tools, there's going to be worksheets, there's going to be things that you're going to get each week to assist you outside of the sessions. And as soon as you sign up, you get access to 4 bonuses. The blood sugar balancer, which is 2 15-minute videos that talk all about blood sugar and ways to start regulating it. You're going to get the sugar cravings journal prompts, your brain on sugar, which is a 60-minute video to better understand how refined sugar affects your brain, your mood, your dopamine and blood sugar, and a lot more. And you're going to get access to that free recipe archive. So as soon as you get signed up, you literally get access to all of that already. And just a friendly reminder for pricing. So right now we're on early bird pricing, which is $149 USD. Regular price is $222 USD. So you have got until Friday, September 22nd at midnight Mountain Time to get the USD early bird rate of $149. And then it goes up to $222 Saturday, the 23rd. So you have still some time until the end of this week to claim that rate. And then it goes up. Obviously, you can still sign up thereafter. However, come forth, get that early bird rate. It's totally worth it. And last but not least, I will leave you with a couple of success stories of clients that I've worked with. So in just weeks, Amber helped me fully stop my sugar cravings. And it was shocking when she asked me if I had cravings, and I had to really take a moment and realize they were gone. How freeing. Thank you. That's from Sandra. And sugar used to rule me. Now it doesn't anymore. And I'm forever grateful for Amber's support with her programs to help you kick the sugar and the guilt if you end up having some. I feel so good knowing I can enjoy my cake, but not overdo it and feel fine afterward. And that's from Jenny. So there is a lot available for you here. If you want to come into the Kick the Sugar, if you prefer one-on-one, you're welcome to come and reach out for that. You can come and sign up for Kick the Sugar by either going to amberapproved.ca, clicking online programs, and it'll be the first program at the top of the page. You can also go to amberapproved.ca/podcast/437, and it will be available in the show notes for you. If you have any questions, email me info@amberapproved.ca. So I've given you a lot today, lots of different things you can explore. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. All of the details, like I said, go to amberapproved.ca/podcast/437. I'm cheering you on. I am, sending you so much love. I'm so pumped because there's some really amazing women in the program already, and I'm super excited to meet you all and dive in and assist you on this gorgeous journey. And the beauty of it is I wanted to do it at this time because we have Canadian Thanksgiving, Halloween, American Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and whatever holidays you celebrate through the rest of the year. And this is going to help you navigate those just with so much more ease and grace. So welcome to those of you who are coming in, and I just want you to know that you don't have to keep struggling with this, and you can overcome your sugar cravings and your sugar addiction as well. I've witnessed thousands of women do it, so I know that you can as well. So enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great week, and I will look forward to sharing a whole new episode with all of you beautiful souls next Sunday. Take care.